revolves around a plane that, due to a mechanical failure, travels through time and reaches the time of World War II. Their World War II was going on. A plane is shown at the start of the film, which has a captain and a pilot. The captain claims that the weather is quite clear and that we'll reach it within an hour. Everything was running smoothly until all the aeroplane's devices began to malfunction. The captain contacts the control room, where they inform him that there is no manufacturing fault with the aircraft. The weather is clear up ahead as well. Hearing this, the captain relaxes. Traveling ahead, they see a terrible storm approaching their plane. Watching this, the captain and the pilot became terrified. They were trying to contact the control room, but because of the poor weather conditions, they were unable to do so. There was a terrible storm before them. Having no option, they had to travel through the storm. As they fastened the seat belts to the passengers, they were instructed to be cautious. As they passed through the storm, the situation turned worse. All the passengers seated on the plane were screaming with fear. The captain and the pilot have saved the plane from the storm. After coming out of the storm, it suddenly turned out to be night. They wonder if it was the day before or how the night appeared suddenly. This makes them very worried, and everything except the radar begins to malfunction in their plane. From this, they learn that many other fighter planes are flying around them. They still hope that their plane might have a defect that the control room will fix. They continue to travel. 30 minutes pass in this way, but they didn't receive any signals from the control room. The captain decides that they'll land the plane and will figure out the matter. As they were landing the plane, they find the signals of other flying planes on the radar. The pilot tells the captain that these aren't regular planes but fighter planes. As they glance below, they see a few planes attacking a city with bombs. Seeing them, it looks like a war is going on. The passengers on the planes become terrified when they see this. Meanwhile, the plane crew comes and tells them that there is no need to fear. Everything is under control. On the other side, the captain and the pilot were also afraid. After witnessing whatever was going on before them, some fighter planes witness them before they can understand anything. All the passengers on the plane were terrified by whatever was happening to them. They ask the plane staff to tell them everything truly. They warn all the passengers to stay calm for a while, because the plane staff was also unaware of this all happening. The captain and the pilot were both worried, and the captain suggested landing the plane, but the pilot became afraid of whatever he had witnessed before. The captain tells him, "Try to understand that our plane is about to run out of fuel. If we don't land the plane, we'll trap ourselves badly here." Later, we see two passengers in the plane who were historians and say that they know everything about the past. They have deep knowledge of the past. As they look below and open their books, they come to know what is happening around them. They go to the captain and the pilot to inform them. However, nobody is allowing them to get to the pilot and the captain. They inform them by standing there that the planes they've seen outside, after 1945, they stopped production, and the enemy destroyed them. When he hears this, the captain rags and tells them, "What useless talk are you making?" He asks them to go from there, and he doesn't listen fully to them. Both of them tell him that we've traveled through time. This is 1940s World War II, and the captain listens to them. The captain tells him, "I'll give you some time, and you can narrate your story." After listening to them, the captain was also confused. He asks them to go and sit in their seats. He forbids them to tell about this to the other passengers. Later, they travel by plane, and in the meantime, they contact an army officer. He was in his control room and asked them to tell him about themselves. They tell him that we need help, but the army officer doubts them because they are his enemies. The officer was also worried after listening to their talks. Later, the captain asks about today's date. He tells him that today is June 17, 1940. The captain becomes worried to hear this, as they were living in 2015. He was recalling the statements of two historian passengers. They've informed him about everything, and he later calls both of them, so they can talk to the army officer they've contacted. They check their history books and tell the army officer that a giant ship is about to sink. The army officer was worried about how such a giant ship could be sunk. He goes to his other army officers and informs them about this. On the other side, the two passengers who know about the past tell the pilots, "Due to a problem in space, we reached it in 1940s by traveling time. This is all just for a while because we don't belong here. Soon we'll reach our time, but we've got to wait for that time now, and we must protect ourselves from the war that is breaking out here." Meanwhile, a man hears this and tells everyone that we've traveled to the time of World War II. And our lives are in danger, but no one was believing him. Only a few people believed him. And meanwhile, 2 soldiers arrived there. They were traveling on this plane and they asked everyone to sit comfortably in their seats, because they don't want anyone to act stupidly at a time of difficulty. Again, the army officer contacts them from the control room. He tells them that whatever information you've given us about the plane is absolutely right. Many lives have been saved because of you, and now they are ready to help them. The army officer was inquiring about their location. But they don't know about their location. For this reason, they turn on the lights on their plane, so the soldiers can see them. But it happens the opposite. Some fighter planes see them and begin to fire their guns at them. The captain has an idea. He thinks that these fighter planes are quite ancient. Their technology might be quite old, so to save his plane, he lands it. But the fighter planes were chasing him, and meanwhile he took off his plane. The fighter planes that were chasing him couldn't suddenly take off and were destroyed after landing. Now their plane was running out of fuel, and meanwhile 2 fighter planes approached them. They attacked their plane with a missile, and their plane's window was blown out. Their plane became unbalanced, and the attack frightened all of the passengers. The 2 historians, men who knew about the past, had all the information. They say to fix our plane's balance, after fixing a radar with a parachute, we had to toss it. As a result, the army soldiers will help us, and they will take a parachute from a passenger. After fixing it with the radar device, they sent it to the army soldiers. The army soldiers have seen it, and they install the radar and learn about the exact location of the plane. They brought the pilot to a safe area, but the plane's fuel was about to run out. Meanwhile, they see the storm before them that has brought them into this time. They learn that the time is again going to be correct, as the 2 men informed them. They were about to enter the storm, and they warned the passengers in the plane to sit safely. Everyone was quite worried, and they entered the present after passing through the storm. After traveling from 1940s to 2015, both pilots finally made an emergency landing. All of the passengers had been saved over the 6 hours they have been dealing with this. They felt relieved and got off the plane one by one. But an old man was still on the plane writing a book. Here, we learn that this is the same army officer who helped them in 1940s from the control room. This army officer already knew that this plane would time travel. For this reason, he has kept a parachute handy to avoid any trouble while traveling. The movie story ends with this.